Welcome back to class. I forgot to hit record, so we're going to hit record. We're doing a little bit of a review of what we learned the first day of class, and we talked about the three things that make you successful. The first thing is what you know. The second thing is who you know. The third thing is mindset. Yeah, right? So what you know, who you know, your mindset. That's what makes you successful. You know the theory now. That's my opinion, by the way. Validate it for yourself. Apply it to your own life. See if you come up with something better as principles that make you successful. If you do come up with something better principles towards making you successful, let me know. But until then, the best ones I've come up with are what you know, who you know, and mindset are the three things that make you successful. And then if you want to be successful, you also have to step outside the lines of conformity. Average, by definition, is average. This is statistics, right? So the average is what, if you look at everybody, if everybody is 10 people, and you take the average of those 10 people, and some people earn in the 10, 100,000, and some people earn 30,000. You add up all their salaries, you divide by 10. The average is probably going to be like $65,000. What is the mean salary in America, right? And mean is another word that we use for average in statistics. If you're not in statistics, we talk about the average. If you're out on the street talking with normal people, we say average. What's the average? If you're in statistics or you're talking with data scientists, right, we might say mean. Those two words are interchangeable. They're synonymous, but the word mean is what we use in the culture of statistics. Okay, every culture has its own language. When you start to learn about a culture, whether that culture is surfing or baking or motocross riding, or fashion, or acting, or statistics, every culture is going to have its own language. Chemistry has its own language. Biology, physics, mathematics, computers, right? Networking, they all have their own language, and statistics has its own language too. And in statistics, we call the average the mean. I don't know why, right? I don't know why, but that's what we call it. So the mean salary in America, and you can see mean average is $70,000. So if you want to be average, if you want to conform to the mean, you'll make $70,000. That's what everybody's doing. If you want to make more than that, you need to do something different than what everybody's doing, which means you have to step outside the lines of conformity. Okay, you have to think, what's everybody doing? And I need to do something different than that because I don't want to be like everybody. I don't want to be the mean salary. I want more than $70,000 a year. I want $140,000. I want $250,000. I want $350,000. I want to make $1 million a year. I have a friend who makes $1 million a year. I have another friend who has somewhere between $50 to $100 million in the bank, depending upon how crypto's doing that day. I have another, and his wife makes $5 million a year. So I was just talking with, what was your name again? Lowen about that this morning, and the rest of you, right? Like, what career are you going to choose? What paycheck are you going to choose? So these are some of the things we learned on the very first day, and we learned about practicing stepping outside the lines of social conformity, right? And you had an opportunity to try it out and to do something different than everyone around you. Tell you what, I want to do something different than everybody around me, right? Like, I want to be in the top 10% of income earners. I want to be doing something different than everybody around me. Because everybody around me is average, and they're making $70,000 a year. How much does an American make if they are in the top 10% of income earners? All right, the top 10%, 155 to 251. Top 5%, 210 to 220. Top 1%, 450 to 500. Okay? So what percentage do you want to be in? And if you want to be in the top 5%, you got to be different than the average, than what people in the middle are doing. And if you look at that, let me just adjust my screen so you can kind of see it. If you look at like that, we're going to learn about this in this class. But distribution, if we took all those people and we distributed them, and these were like, I don't know how many people this would be. This would be like 10 people. And then here it'd be like 100 people. And then here it'd be like 10,000 people. And then here it'd be like 100 people. And then here it'd be like 10 people, right? The vast majority of people are here in the middle. This is called a bell curve. It's also called the normal curve, a normal distribution. It's a distribution of like everybody that we measure, right? Some people are going to be making a real small amount of money. Some people are going to be making a real large amount of money. And most people are right here making the average, the mean amount of money. And that's a distribution curve. That's interesting. And so if you want to be like everybody, right? This is everybody, the majority. If you want to do better than everybody, you got to do something different. You got to step outside the lines of social conformity. So we're combining here in this conversation statistics and sociology and psychology, right? Sociology is the study of humans and how they act in groups. Psychology is the study of individuals and, right, like how does an individual operate and act and think and what do they do? Sociology is groups, psychology is individual, statistics is like measurement. You had an opportunity to step outside the lines of social conformity on Tuesday. We did jumping jacks. Not a lot of you decided to do that. Some of you timidly got up and you tried a little bit of stretching. One person got up and did some jumping jacks and push-ups with me, right? But it's a really good exercise to not do what everybody around you is doing, to be the captain of your own fate, the master of your soul. There's a great poem, and the poem is Invictus. And, I'll just put it there. Let's see what it does. And it was Nelson Mandela's favorite poem. And Nelson Mandela was a black person who lived in South Africa. And he protested against apartheid. And apartheid was what they called racism in South Africa. How many people have heard the word apartheid before? Okay, how many people have never heard it? And it was a social system where the whites had different rights than the blacks. And the whites were the ruling class and the blacks were the working class and worse, right? And so Nelson Mandela protested against that, and they sent him to prison for 20 or 25 years. And they tortured him. And he went to prison in a place called Robben Island, which is kind of like Alcatraz. It's an island off of Cape Town, I believe, off of South Africa. And he's out there, and the guards would come. They'd assign a guard, go torture Nelson Mandela. How many people are interested in this story? Raise your hand, say aye. Okay. The guards would go torture Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela embraced his fate. He had chosen this destiny. He was the master of his fate and the captain of his soul. And he did not resent it or lament it. And he saw it as his duty to suffer nobly on behalf of everybody in his country, to protest apartheid and racism, to try to get change. And so the story goes, I've been told, when the guard would come to torture him, Nelson Mandela would say, "Good morning. My name is Nelson. What's your name?" "George." "George, it's good to see you. We're colleagues here this morning. I'm happy to meet another colleague. My job here is to be tortured and stand up for what I see are the injustices happening in our country, and your job is to torture me. Where should we begin? Do you want me to sit? Do you want me to lie down on the table? How do you want to torture me?" And the guard was like, what the heck is going on here? He's very cordial, very polite, very professional. And then he'd get to know George. How is the boat ride out to Robben Island this morning? Right? You have a wife and kids? I have a wife and kids. How are your wife and kids? Oh, that's cool. Oh, your daughter had a birthday party. Okay, should we begin the torture? And then the guard would eventually be like, I can't torture this man. And they'd send another guard. Okay, now Fred's going to go torture Nelson. And then Fred would come, and Nelson would do the same thing. And eventually there was not one guard left on Robben Island who would torture Nelson Mandela. That is being the captain of your fate and the master of your soul, and doing what most people don't do, right? Choosing your road, choosing your route, choosing your destiny. Do you see it? And after 25 years, like, apartheid ended, and Nelson Mandela was elected the president of South Africa. And when he was inaugurated, they had Nelson Mandela invited all of the guards, his colleagues and his friends, to sit in the front row of his inauguration. Not to intimidate them, but just like, we're all together now. No resentment, no grudges. Let's move forward. Kind of amazing, right? So this poem here speaks to that, and it's Nelson Mandela's favorite poem. And it was his favorite, or one of them, but it was such a good poem that they made a movie about Nelson Mandela's life, and they named the movie after this poem, and it stars Matt Damon. So you can watch it if you want. Invictus, the trailer. And I'm telling you this because you came here to be successful. We're going to learn about statistics, right? But the number one thing that you need to be successful, there's actually three of them, are you have to know the principles of success. And it's what you know, and it's who you know, and it's your mindset. And if you have a crappy mindset, you're going to build a crappy life. And if you have an outstanding, positive, skillful mindset, you're going to build an outstanding, positive, skillful life. This is just an axiom of being human. And I'm not telling you anything new. And these are things I've learned from other great minds throughout time. And we talked about some of them. Marcus Aurelius, all right? The soul becomes dyed in the color of its thoughts. You got to be careful about what thoughts you tell yourself. Or is what, not enough statistics for you? You need anything?
No, actually, I went to behavioral health this morning. I was going to email you my reason.
Okay, you got to do some stuff.
Yes.
All right, you going to be back?
Yes, I'll be back for class next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday. What's your name, first name?
Kat.
Kat, thanks for coming for 10 minutes. See you, Kat.
I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. You showed up for 10. You got some good stuff.
Thank you.
Marcus Aurelius. All right, soul becomes dyed in the color of its thoughts. Siddhartha Gautama, Eastern philosopher, said, the mind is the forerunner of all things. As you think and act, so your world becomes. Mind is the forerunner of all things. As you think and act, so your world becomes. Man, that's profound. Mind is the forerunner of all things. As you think and act, so your world becomes. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm going to put him up there with Marcus Aurelius and Siddhartha Gautama. How many people have heard of Siddhartha Gautama before? Raise your hand. Nobody. And then Marcus Aurelius. Oh, sorry. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And we talked about his trailer. His trailer for Netflix, Arnold. Great movie on Netflix called Arnold. Documentary on his life. An individual who overcame immense challenges and realized immense success in 3 different domains. And also on Audible, his book, Be Useful. And we talked about Smarter, Faster, Better by Charles Duhigg. And I don't know if we talked about this one, but it's great. We also have Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And we have Unleash the Giant Within by Anthony Robbins. And we have the Netflix documentary by Anthony Robbins, called I Am Not Your Guru, right? And then we have Chuck Yeager's autobiography, whatever it's called, on Amazon. It's great. Chuck Yeager's autobiography, Yeager. And we have Annie Duke, Thinking in Bets, which is all about statistics. She was a professional gambler. Fantastic book. All right, really enjoyable. Listen to the Audible version. She talks. It's great. And then I had some of you take pictures of that, right? But you have to start asking yourself, what do I need to do? What action do I need to take right now? What is the next best action? What's the next best step? Listen to your mind, your intellect, your reason. Listen to your body, your heart, your intuition. Both of them. Sometimes you'll be in a class and you'll be like, whoa, this is the wrong vibe. the next best step for me is to walk out of this class, right? Go find a different class. It's not the right one for me. We talked about academic counselors on campus and getting an academic counselor and financial aid counselor and psychological counselors, wise village elders, right? They could help you become more skillful with your life. All these things we talked about, amazing principles for building a better life to become successful. And this is Nelson Mandela's favorite poem right here. And I share it because this phrase that I like is right here. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Okay? And it talks about no matter how hard the challenge becomes, you don't quit. You don't give up. Challenges are there to test you and to help you grow. And they will buckle you. They will bring you to your knees, and you keep crawling forward, dragging yourself forward until you find and fight your way out, until you fight your way out and you find a solution to the challenge, and you come out the other side transformed, right? Like the phoenix rising from the ashes. It will break you down, and then you will rise anew as a new individual from the experience. So I'm just going to take a moment and share this poem because I think it's great. Out of the night that covers me, night, right? Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole. Like, this is a dire situation. This is like Nelson Mandela in that prison being tortured. I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. No matter how hard or challenging the circumstances, my soul is strong. It's still here, right? It's unconquerable. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Like, you can't break me. I'm unconquerable. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. So wrath, tears, like hard challenges, right? And the horror of the shade, a metaphor for death, right? Like, we don't know what death's going to be. That's what waits at the end of these beatings is death. Right? And yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. Like, I will look directly at it. I will face it. Right? If I have fear, I will acknowledge and accept that fear and move forward. It's not going to hold me back. I'm going to step outside the lines of conformity. I'm going to ask questions in class. I'm going to participate. I'm going to speak out. I'm going to differentiate myself because I want to be more than the mean. I want to be more than average. I want to be in the top 10%, the top 5%, the top 1%. And part of the reason I'm sharing all this with you is because the number one reason you came here is to become more successful. So if you want to become more successful, you got to know how to become more successful. And the other reason I'm sharing it with you is, I don't know, I forgot. But what did come to mind is, this is the other reason, is inspiration. Because you could sit here waiting to be told. You could sit here waiting to be told. And then you're always going to be a robot. You're always going to be a slave. You're always going to be a prisoner. You're going to do what you're told. That's what a robot does. That's what a slave does. That's what a prisoner does. And the only way you could ever have true freedom is if you learn to make your own decisions. And that's what you have to learn to truly be an adult. And very few of us learn that 100%. I have not yet learned it 100%. I'm still learning it, okay? But I'm definitely not at 0%. Definitely not at 10%. Like, I'd like to believe I'm somewhere up near 70 or 80, but how do you quantify such a thing? Okay, you have to learn to make your own decisions, otherwise you're not free. Prisoners can't make their own decisions. Prisoners want to go out and get a pizza and catch a movie at the theater. They can't do it. They're not free. They're locked up, right? They can't make their own decisions. Slaves want to stop, tilling the field or, working the way they're working. They can't do it. They're slaves. They have to do what they're told. So if you keep doing what you're told by God or government or society or culture or your parents or just the ingrained patterns of behavior and patterns of thought in your own mind, if you keep just doing that, you're not free. You're a prisoner and you're a slave. The only way to be free is to learn to start making your own decisions. Get up. Jumping jacks. do jumping jacks, speak out in class, ask questions, walk out of a class, tell a professor you think that professor is full of crap, have an interesting discussion with somebody where you discuss differences in viewpoints. Learn to stand in your own two shoes. Become free. Learn to make your own decisions. If this resonates with you, say I. If you feel like, oh man, this is really good to hear, say I. Plutarch, this is the quote I wanted to share with you. Plutarch said, and this is what he said about education, the mind is not a vessel to be filled. Like you have been conditioned and trained deeply over 12 years from pre-K to kindergarten to first grade, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, like for 14 years to sit there still and listen and do what you're told. I'm telling you to rise up and to break those patterns of conditioning, those patterns of behavior and those patterns of thought, and to start to think for yourself and start to make your own decisions. Okay, and make good decisions. You and I say to my kids when they're going to do something, like, hey, we're going to go down to the liquor store and buy lighters and light stuff on fire. Make good decisions. That's what I say. Make good decisions. True story, that's what they're into. There seems to be an age where kids get into fire. And they make good decisions. They get the little fire pit out. They collect some branches. They got a little flick lighter. They learned that you have to be 18 to buy a lighter at the liquor store. So they called mom over. Mom bought it, and came back, and they're making little fires in the fire pit. It's like, good, you guys are making good decisions. Make good decisions. Be free. Plutarch said, the mind is not a vessel to be filled. It's not a container to put more stuff into. That's not the purpose of education. Let me give you some more calculus. Let me give you some more formulas. Let me give you some statistics. That's not the purpose of education. It's one of the purposes. It's not the primary purpose, according to Plutarch, and then also now according to me. Because I was like, when I read that, I'm like, damn, he's right. The mind is not a vessel to be filled. It's kindle to be ignited. Whoa. The mind is not a vessel to be filled. It's kindle to be ignited. If I can ignite each and every one of you where you're passionate and you're enthusiastic and you're in charge of your own life, and you are the captain of your soul and the master of your fate, right? If I could ignite that within you, I've done more for you in your life than I could ever do if I helped you master statistics. Because now you are the master of your fate. And as Mark Twain said, you're not going to let school interfere with your education. You're not going to let school interfere with your education. You're not going to let school interfere with your education. You're not going to let school interfere with your education because you've been ignited. You're on fire, right? You're no longer just filling the vessel with stuff because you're told to do it. You're making decisions. You're taking actions. You're coming to school to learn what you need to learn. You're dropping classes that suck and professors that suck, and you're getting into the ones you want. And you're choosing your paycheck. You're consciously choosing your paycheck. You're consciously saying, this is the career I want. It has this job satisfaction level, and it has this pay, and I'm choosing that. Right? And you're starting to do research to think about that. You're not just coming here like it's Disneyland and like, oh, what do I like? It's not Disneyland. This is the real world. Disneyland's not the real world. Is that Gabby? No? My eyes aren't that good. You're not Gabby? Oh my God, I thought you were Gabby for a second. And now I'm adding a column for how well each one will survive AI, right? But like just do that research and then be like, okay, cool. These are the three I'm thinking about. I'm going for that. Become the master of your fate. Become the captain of your own soul. Get in the driver's seat of your life. The mind becomes dyed in the color of its thoughts. The soul becomes dyed in the color of its thoughts. So start steeping your mind in good thoughts. Listen to those resources I listed out for you. Listen to them over and over again. When I was young, like in my teens, late teens, I would listen to this one tape, Jack Kornfield. We talked about The Path with Heart, another good book. I would listen to this one tape by Jack Kornfield. It's a series of tapes. It's like 8 tapes or 12. Tapes were like before CDs. It's how you listen to stuff in your car before we had phones. And I would listen to it. It was like 12 hours long, 18 hours long. I listened to it over and over and over for 2 years. That's what I listened to in my car. Steeping the mind, steeping the soul in thoughts. Okay? Let's hear the rest of the poem, and then we'll move on with statistics. So, in the fell clutch of circumstance, I've not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, right? And a gate is like, something you have to get through, like a ship might go through a gate of rocks trying to make a passage. It matters not how straight that is. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. The scroll is maybe your fate that's been written out. Doesn't matter how charged with punishments it is. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. I'm in the driver's seat. I blame nobody. No more victim mentality. No more my parents didn't raise me well. Right? I take full responsibility now for my life. I've gone from being a wet, limp noodle, as the drill sergeant in the U.S. Marine Corps described new recruits. I told you about that research I did as a younger academic. I've gone from being a wet, limp noodle to somebody who determines what they do using the OODA loop. What does OODA stand for? Observe, orient, decide, act. It's what the military uses. They go into the most intense life and death situations, and they're running the OODA loop in their head. Observe, orient, decide, act. Right? Taking forward action. Okay? That's my attempt to ignite each of you. How many people that was helpful say aye? Anybody got anything you want to add to that? Any comments, questions, suggestions, additions, quotes I don't know about, philosophers I don't know about, books I don't know about? Speak now. Let's hear it. Invictus? I think it's Latin. Oh, well, we could just ask right there. I think it means unconquerable. Did I spell it right? I didn't spell it. Oh, Invictus. Yeah, I did. Is Latin. It means unconquered, undefeated, invincible. That was a great question. Any other questions, comments, suggestions, additions? Ready to do some statistics? All right, let's do some statistics.